Before the players arrive, the staff should arrange for the taggers and devices to all be configured ready for the first game. Taggers should be reset back to appropriate factory defaults. For Battlefield Tag Theme, the resets phaser red and phaser blue are used. Have the blue and red taggers separated before doing a reset. If relevant, further settings such as increasing the volume to high and changing the emulation to commandos should be done as well. For battle boxes, if they are not already set to recommended options, use the master controller reset to set them to recommended options or turn on the battle box while holding down the red button. When the LCD says release button, let go and then push the red button so reset is yes and then push the green button. For 2 team games, 2 battle boxes will be required to work as medic boxes to provide reactivations. Choose medic box from the recommended options menu and then choose any team. Medic boxes should be set to any team at this stage. At least 1 medic box should be left on, near the armory, so players can reactivate themselves before briefing starts. A radio repeater with a whip antenna should be turned on and placed on high ground in the center of the battlefield. The most common and recommended first game to run is capture and hold. Turn on a battle box, select game box from the list, and then activate. This box is placed in the middle of the battlefield between the teams. Capture and hold works well with 2 or 3 teams. For how to set up other games, check out the Basic Games Handbook. Before players receive their tagger, they need to register, normally supplying a completed waiver. The registration officer will then issue the player a wristband. This way, all staff members know who has registered. Once the first group has registered, allocate to a team, and start issuing taggers. Try to issue taggers as people arrive rather than in one big rush. Be sure to note whether they are wearing a wristband and meet any clothing requirements such as substantial long pants. Before the players select their taggers, explain they can practice with them before we start, but they should leave the head sensors wrapped around the tagger. They can reactivate at the medic box. Point out the location of the medic box. Tell the players that a full briefing will happen later when everyone is ready. Finally, turn their tagger on or direct them to the nearest staff member who can switch on their device. Make sure the staff check that the players meet the clothing requirement and have a wristband before turning on the tagger. Normally the clothing requirement in Woodlands is substantial long pants covering their ankles and covered shoes. For a large session, the result of issuing and switching on taggers before the briefing can look completely chaotic. But it has dual benefits. The players are learning how to play and they are more patient than if they were waiting around bored. The event leader has to arrange the teams. In some sessions there are natural teams or the group organizer has teams prearranged. In a public session there is likely to be multiple groups attending and they will need to arrange into relatively even teams. Where possible, try to keep groups together. Try to put the group with the oldest players with the youngest group. Do your best to estimate age and experience to make the teams equally likely to win. Sometimes you will need to ask for volunteers to change teams to even things up. However, where possible, try to keep the groups together. When you're ready to start providing directions to the players such as to tell them what team they are on, use the briefing command on the master controller. Hats or headbands can be used to tell the teams. If you are using hats, issue each team their colored head wrap. If you are using headbands to tell the teams, players can wear their own hat. Sometimes players wearing caps will need to wear it backwards, so the brim does not cover the front head sensor. Once they have their hats, explain how to mount the head sensors. Explain that sensors are mounted front and back and the cable goes at the back and then runs under their armpit. Before calling all the players in for a formal briefing, find an unused tagger. Also find the boxes you will need for demonstration during the briefing. Get yourself into the briefing area where you're going to speak from. From radio commands, issue the briefing command. For a large group, issue the briefing area phrase. With a large group, try to arrange the audience in a large semicircle in front of you. Don't let people get too close, as it will make it harder for other people to see what you are doing. Practice your briefing beforehand, so you can deliver with confidence. Get into character and deliver with personality. Think and act like a professional actor. You will need to explain to the players safety, tagging, reactivating, and cheating. For groups with young players, try to keep it as simple and quick as possible while still giving them the information they need to play. Importantly, if running indoors or around inflatables, a no-running rule is required to prevent injuries. First off, welcome everyone to the laser tag. Introduce the staff members by their alias. Explain you will take questions relating to each topic at the end of each topic. If you do the briefing correctly, there should be very few questions. The most important part of the briefing is safety. Make sure everyone understands the safety rules and major risks of the activity. For example, battlefield tag is a non-contact activity. Do not hit, kick, or otherwise injure another player. You should try to stay at least 1 meter away from everyone else, including your teammates. There is a no climbing rule, which means you can't climb the trees or the buildings. But most importantly for safety, remember, the battlefield is not a running track, there are plenty of things you can trip over. Watch where you're going, including when walking along the bush tracks. Next, point out the boundaries of the battlefield. These should be easily identifiable. The next topic is getting hit. With your tagger, there are 3 infrared sensors, 2 in domes that mount on the head, and 1 forward-facing mounted on the tagger. This is where you can get tagged. On your LCD, you will see the first letter HP, this stands for health points. This starts at 5 health points. When this reaches 0, you're deactivated. You will know you are being tagged because your tagger will tell you. It will say, you're tagged. When you run out of health points, your tagger will say you're deactivated. If you pull the trigger when you are deactivated, your tagger will helpfully say, you're deactivated, return to base. Now, when you make a tag, your tagger will also talk to you. It will say, tagged. And when you eliminate another player, your tagger will say, deactivated. Remember, if it starts with your, that means it's happening to you. If you are deactivated, return to your base. This is where you started the game from. Here you will find a medic box. Go to the medic box and point your head sensor at the top of the box. Your tagger should then say reactivate after a second. It is cheating to place your hand over the sensors, including the one on the tagger. The head sensors must remain on your head during the entire game. If they accidentally fall off, the rule is to stop tagging and stop moving. Only when you have put your sensors back on can you continue to play. Boxes are only to be moved by the staff. To tag someone, aim through the scope. You'll see a red dot. Aim the red dot about 2 inches above your opponent's sensor. Notice that the infrared beam comes out of the tube here, so it is important to make sure this tube is clear of any cover. When you're tagging, a muzzle flash comes out of the tube. Now proceed to the first game-specific briefing. Once the briefing is done, encourage the players to have a drink, and tell them we will be moving out in a few minutes. You can use this time to collect any boxes required and to organize your staff. The players need to be shown where the objectives are, such as the position of both flag boxes or the game box. When managing a large group, your voice may not get everyone's attention. To help, use the phrases menu on the master controller. Start with the follow the commanding officer phrase, and if required, use the follow me phrase, to get everyone moving. Once you have shown everyone the objective, lead the teams to their respective bases. With the master controller, the staff should now set the teams of the taggers and the medic boxes. If playing electronic capture the flag, each flag box will need to be assigned a home team. If running heist, each vault will need to be set to a team. Each team starts in a base with a medic box set to their team. For the first game of a session, or if any players have changed taggers since the last game, the master controller must be used to set every tagger to the correct team. After the initial briefing, all the taggers should still be in pause state due to the issuing of the briefing command. On subsequent games, the taggers should be in game over state. The start command on a master controller requires the devices to be in game over state or pause state. If you're unsure as to the state of all taggers and devices, use the end radio function before issuing a start command. One of the controllers, usually the one held by the event leader, should have the game timer set. This is found on the radio commands menu. Normally this is set to 15 minutes. All other controllers should be set to unlimited time. The controller with the timer then starts the game with a start command found on the radio commands menu. Note that starting a game requires a confirmation. A game timer will now start. If any taggers or boxes failed to start up, the new mission command found in IR commands menu on your master controller can be used to start individual devices without restarting the game timer. With a properly positioned radio repeater, all devices should start up. If they fail, there is likely to be a problem with that device's radio system. Check first that each team's medic box is successfully providing reactivations. Wait near your team's box until the first player returns and successfully reactivates. Next, check the objective boxes such as the flag boxes are operational. Make sure they are set to the right team and are not still on the boot screen. If they are on the boot screen, push the green button on the box. For the event leader, one of the key roles while a game is in progress is to make sure the staff allocated to the battlefield are helping the players have a fantastic time in a safe manner. All staff allocated to battlefield supervision are there to provide assistance to the players, much like a sports team coach. Players will not remember everything from the briefing and will need help with the equipment. This is particularly true during the first game but applies for the entire session. Especially watch for players aiming above cover but with their lens assembly blocked. Let them know they need the lens uncovered. Also help players to have their head sensors mounted correctly and make sure the head sensors are not covered by their hat position. The staff should be visible and spread out. Ensure the staff are not all in one place having a chat. They need to be patrolling with their primary focus being on areas of action. Staff may well need to handle first aid issues, mostly scratches from foliage or bruises from falling over. The faster these are identified and handled, the better. Staff should be on the watch for cheating. The pause IR command is useful to temporarily stop a player cheating and provide a warning. If one team has stolen a flag box or game box, you may well need to pause the entire game by radio command to retrieve the box. Staff should provide assistance to the players in finding the objective boxes or their medic box. SATR3 streamlines even sophisticated games, which frees up staff for other jobs. Once the games start, all the devices can be controlled and monitored. This also means that during the games is the best time to give your staff short breaks, typically 10 minutes. Staff breaks should start from the second game. When operating commercial laser tag, we have found after much trial and error, the following guidelines for game development are very important to achieve high levels of consistent customer satisfaction. Try to keep these in mind as you develop your own games. It is important that sessions finish on time. For this to occur, each game also has to run to schedule. In a typical public session, this means each game runs for exactly 15 minutes. Avoid games which are not fixed length. In a commercial environment where players are paying for every minute of play, they want plenty of action, especially for the first couple of games. Long-range patrols where little happens for extended periods of time should be avoided except for special events. Players like tagging and action, they don't like walking a long way to get a reactivation. Keep medic boxes quite close to the objectives. By using unlimited or high number of reactivations, every player plays the entire game. Avoid games where some players are eliminated for extended periods. The major underlying goal of the SATR3 system is to provide compelling laser tag experiences with as few staff as possible. To be commercially viable, you need games with a high player-to-staff ratio. Get the technology to do the work to save staffing costs. It's best to focus games on team objectives rather than individual champions. With team objectives, more people win and it creates a positive relationship between the team members. Team-oriented games make it easier to secretly adjust the difficulty level via the game adjustments menu. Remember, over the course of a session we want everyone to have a win. The complexity and physical challenge of the game must be appropriate to the group. A super fit sports team might well appreciate doing a hill assault, but a white-collar corporate group will be much happier on flat ground. Generally, avoid complex games except for veteran players that are ready for the challenge. The themes need to be age-appropriate and culturally sensitive. The major reason for objectives is to encourage players to come out of hiding and get into the action. Additionally, a team elimination on a large battlefield or one with little cover can result in neither team moving forward. Players want to explore. This means each game you run in a session should see teams starting at a different location. Avoid running games where contact is likely to happen in the same place as a game run earlier in the session. Sometimes players will tell you they want it ultra-realistic. Don't believe them. They may want to imagine the game is very realistic, but in reality, they always want to be a hero, they want plenty of action, and they don't want to work too hard.